This is Authentic Talks, where we ask the hard questions and challenge the status quo in cybersecurity and identity. We bring you real conversations with leaders who believe authenticity is the key to trust and transformation.
My name is Arielle Slama, and I'm here with my partner in crime, the always on the road, never without a coffee, Rich Gibsen.
Welcome, everybody. Happy 2026. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, happy 2026, Rich. This is, I hope that you had a very Merry Christmas, that you ate too much and and that you had too much to drink as well.
Always.
Okay, so this is our second episode and the first for this year. And let's say here I will allow myself the one and only joke, like New Year, fresh passwords. No, well, we're just going passwordless, right? This is what we said. Okay, so this is a year of resolutions, right? Fresh starts, maybe some overly optimistic gym memberships. But I don't know for you guys, but there are two kinds of people when it comes to New Year's. There are the ones that are taking the memberships and not going to the gym, and the one that have a board vision and they know what they want to do that. As this is a new year, and because we like a little bit of a vision board, we figured that a better way to kick off the year is with a little retrospective on 2025 and a look ahead at what's coming in 2026. To help us dive into all of this, we have a very special guest today, Brent Vernon. Brent, thank you so much for joining us today. But before we jump in, Brent, can you give us a quick intro about yourself and introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Brent Vernon, I'm Senior Director of Technology and Product Management at HID Global. I'm based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, a little up north in the cold weather right now. Some just history on me, I guess. I'm passionate about delivering innovative, secure, and user-focused enterprise technology solutions. Right? My work at HID typically spans across the entire company. It's not just focused on the identity and access management or authentication area. I do touch physical access systems like the PAC side of the business, our digital wallets, our partnering teams with Apple, Google, Microsoft. So yeah, I'm excited to just share some insights from my journey and discuss what I see in the industry. And again, thanks for having me.
That's super cool. Thank you very much, Brent, for this intro, and we really look forward to hear what your thoughts are about where the industry is going. So I think we have this tradition that in this podcast is we start every podcast with an authentic question, and Rich has prepared just the right question for you.
Yeah, we're going to ask you to put on your prognosticator hat, Brent, guess the future. It's 2026, brand new year. So we're asking you, what's the boldest prediction you're willing to make for IAM in 2026? And remember, we're going to come back at the end of the year and test you and validate it. So,
oh, perfect. You're going to hold my feet to the fire.
Pressure. What's the
your
pressure?
Feet to the fire.
You should put a bet on it. I think we need some money, like money betting here, to make it more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I guess boldest predictions. Good one, Rich. I guess I'll break it down into two. I guess I'd say the majority of the larger companies, and by larger I mean like 5,000 users or above, because I know everybody has a different definition of large in this industry. But I think the CISOs are going to start truly overseeing not only the logical side of the company, but also the physical side. I've already started to see some of that happen here and there, but I really think it's going to start taking off in 2026 just because of a lot of the breaches, how they've been happening, both from either side. You get into the physical, you can get into the logical. You get into the logical, you can get into the physical. I think that's probably one of the ones. The other, I think, from a technology point of view, I think shared signals are really going to take off this year. And by that, I'm meaning external factors coming in to make the decision around conditional access, whether you can get into the network, whether you can get into the building, whether you can get onto a cloud service, for example. With that one, though, privacy is definitely going to going to have to be right up there because it can be a really slippery slope on consuming user data and PII of where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing stuff. But I think shared signals are probably going to be one of the big tech ones that come up. It's been talked about for years, but I think we're at a point now where it's going to kick off.
So for you, it's really about two worlds bridging and coming together, and this ability for the CISO to have to manage all of that, and also the approach on how do you manage privacy at the same time. That's where you see that going, and what do you make of the data?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess you could just sum it up as a convergence. I know HID, and I've been working on convergence for, I don't know, 15 years, but it's true. I think across the board now, convergence happening from a software, a hardware, a mentality, systems, everything is coming together.
Okay, breaking the walls. That's great. So, Brent, I'd like to take some time with you a little bit about 2025. Just look at the rear, in the rear view, and you were talking about the CISO in your prediction, and you were talking about what they should be looking at. And you've been on the road, you've been in the market, in the business for 25 years. You have a very broad experience there. I'd like to ask you very bluntly, like, what do you think we are, or CISO are underestimating, or enterprises are constantly underestimating in authentication in the IAM market, or what are they screwing up?
It's a good one. I don't want to say CISOs are screwing up learning, but I think some of the bigger ones around this, right, are that we don't have like a one credential fits all. A lot of people keep thinking this of, I can do one thing across the entire company, and this is true in multiple aspects of the company, right? Whether it's a software package, whether it's a access package for physical, or whether it's the logical side, right? Focusing around this, that you can't just go and pick a credential, whether that's, say, a card, a USB device, a mobile phone, etc., and say that's everybody going to use this. I think the CISOs understand it. They see the use and want to drive that, but when it comes down to, like, push comes to shove, it's not deployable that way, right? We've seen this. We've seen a lot of our companies, customers that we've worked with say, mobile's the way of the future. We're going to use mobile everywhere. That's fine when you're looking at it on paper, but when it push comes to shove, you have restrictions in China, you have restrictions in Europe, you have restrictions in Canada that block that pretty quick. And without a plan behind that of, I'm going to use factor A for this group of people and factor B for this group of people, I don't think you can succeed. The direction's right, the goals are right, but when it comes, just said, push to shove, you have to be able to look at it from a little bit different perspective from the user.
Okay, so you're really focusing on the deployment how do we deploy that? Do you have any tips or learnings, things that are like ABC of that our audience can reuse and start looking at?
Yeah, I think I think some of that too is around, like, when you're talking about passkeys, for example, right? Everybody thinks they're just a grab it and go, right? They're not a plug and play. They're not a mouse and a keyboard. You don't just ship it to a user and they plug it in and it works and they intuitively know how to use it, right? There's some other aspects to this. We're seeing a lot of burden being put on the users, right? Passkeys traditionally have come from the consumer market, where that's pretty acceptable, right? In a consumer spot, you can't manage them, you can't put restrictions around them, right? But when you get into this enterprise market, there are some key factors that are needed, like provisioning them, right? The burden shouldn't be on a user to use a passkey, or sorry, not to use it, to deploy the thing, right? If I send Rich a passkey, depending on the system he's using, he could have up to 23, 25 different steps he has to go through to enroll that thing. That's just ludicrous, right? You're asking for problems. So you take an enterprise, right? even at the 5,000, or you get up into some of the ones we're dealing with, 65,000, 100,000, 200,000, right? Your help desk calls will go through the roof. You ship a bunch of devices out to users. They don't know what they're doing. It's another change for them. And they start clicking on things on a screen. They make one wrong click and it doesn't work. And now you got a help desk call, and now you're creating work for it. And so it's more looking at it from, I guess, the age-old enterprise stuff of what we used to do in the PKI world of you need to provision these things out, make it as easy as possible for the user, give them a working device on the thing, right? Give them some knowledge of what it is, why it's going to make it easier for them before you hand it off, instead of just blindly sending something out. I mean, I'm sure all of us in our life have got stuff. You buy something from Amazon, you get it, you open it up, you don't really know how to use it. You know what it is because you bought it, but you'll run into problems. It's the same concept, right?
Yeah, so it's really about having some empathy for the end user and really starting from the human approach of things, right?
Yeah, definitely, right. And
yeah. And that's actually correlates with our previous episode on treating AI as an employee, and that that we had with Mark Dalmeyer, and it was really about human first, human at the core.
But that's absolutely it, especially around passkeys, right? It is all about the user. Like, yeah, there's the security side that makes your company more secure and least likely to be breached, all of that stuff like that. Everybody that's pushing these out get that. But if you're not looking at it from the user point of view, right, they're going to find ways around it, right? Users don't like change. Right? They just don't.
So speaking of change, and we've been talking passkeys a lot, and you've been also on the road and looking at many trends. Was there a trend in IAM in our market in 2025 that deserves more attention, that hasn't been that didn't get as much traction as you think it should have gotten?
Yeah, there's again, you guys are asking all the great questions, ones that are making me really think here.
Yeah, well, this is a new year. You have to train your brain to work again, so that's okay.
Yeah, I would probably narrow it down to like an IDV, like an identity validation. I've thought for years that is one of the key points to breaking into the kind of getting over the security humps, making stuff secure, making stuff easy. It does have.
Can I just cut you here? For those who are listening to us, can you just explain a little bit more what do you mean by identity validation?
Yeah, for sure. So like a digital identity validation of being able to use a government issued identification piece. So driver's license, passport, a citizen card for people that don't have driver's licenses, and be able to take a phone, for example, and take a digital copy of that, do a live scan selfie of yourself to match against it to prove that's who I am with it. Around that, why I think it needs a little bit more attention is it streamlines an onboarding process drastically with this. Especially after the last couple of years, we're seeing workforce being a lot more remote, not coming into the offices. So it's changed the landscape drastically of when you hire a new employee. Typically before, they would show up at an office and you'd go through the whole onboarding process and do your training and be handed your devices, and everything's all done in a secured fashion. Now it's being done remote. And we're seeing that people are handing out very secure devices out there, whether it's a passkey or a cell phone. And then to activate these things, we're sending them a code through email or through SMS, which is one of the worst delivery mechanisms out there. So if you could bundle these things together and do an identity validation, right, where banks are looking at this stuff already, but bringing it down into the enterprise level, in theory, you could send me a very secure device. HR would already onboard me. I can do an identity validation against my driver's license or my passport that's government issued to validate that I am who I say I am and activate that device. Now I'm not dealing with an out-of-band 6-digit code that anybody could intercept and grab my device and take off. And I know some of these are sounding like it's right out of the movies and who's going to go to that trouble. It does happen, and we are seeing this happen in some of the larger companies. And all it takes is one employee to be
Yeah,
breached.
exactly. And that's what every attack is about, is this weakest link that and this assumption that no, it cannot happen to us, not us. And still
Yep.
there is one employee. Okay. So what I've seen over 2025, and I think it's been more than that now, more than 3-4 years now, is everywhere you go, you have 2 letters, AI, or depending on which country you have, it's EA, whatever, but it's everywhere. It's the big shift. It's the number one priority that every CISO has in mind today. And coming back to the point you were making on it takes one employee. According to you, where did AI genuinely delivered value in 2025? Or do you think it was just, it's still a lot of noise? We haven't seen like the killer use cases around IAM and AI yet.
I guess back in 2025, other than people using it like a glorified Google engine, we're starting to see it touching into areas. I think it could be utilized a little more, and I think we're just starting to unlock the potential around it. Like one of the areas I'm starting to see it where it can really benefit is the quick computing and decision making around conditional access. And that I see both in the logical side of, hey, I need to log into my computer or get onto a VPN or a cloud service, as well as the physical side of coming into buildings. I think the AI can do almost predictive analytics in there of watching the trends and figuring out what's going on, right? She mentioned Rich is on the road all the time, right? It's really hard for just standard logic to be able to say, okay, Rich is in this part of the world, now he's in China, or now he's back over in Australia, or he's in the United States, where AI can look at that and start digging in a little bit deeper and pulling in some of those shared signals, start pulling into other areas of his work life, his calendar, for example, and see, yeah, he's booked on a trip in Australia. He should be in Australia this week. Why is he logging in from South Africa or trying to? Same on the physical access side. If somebody's coming and going from a building every day, say 9 o'clock-ish in the morning, they come in, they leave around 4 o'clock because they have a good job, and they go out the front door, but on a Thursday, they go out the side door at 6 o'clock. It should be able to trip that and see what's going on. Look at the building and say, oh, okay, the front door, nobody was going out the front door. So, okay, that's normal. But okay, there wasn't a problem with the front door. Why did somebody go out the side door and flag that? Maybe not block them from a logging in or in either side of that or getting into a building, but set kind of the flags off and alert from that. I think that's where some of the AI really needs to start diving in.
So kind of a very advanced concierge that knows your whereabouts and that can connect the dots, connect all the dots and provide so a very nice concierge.
And that even goes around that, like that touches on that privacy thing again, like all of this stuff sits right on that big brother kind of thing. So it's tread lightly, consumed inside a company, right? Like you're saying with a lot of the AI platforms now could be bound to a company's borders, not just wide open on the internet. Like obviously you need to keep that stuff in mind as well with it. But I think that's where some of the AI is starting to go versus, hey, what time does this restaurant close, and let AI go and figure it out for you.
Okay, and that's super interesting. I'd like to move on a little bit because we've been talking about 25 extensively, and you gave us great insights. Thank you very much, Brent, for that. we are preparing, or we are in 2026. Rich, you've been on the road quite often in 2025, and you will be on the road as well in 2026. And you really should share with me your miles, because I need to travel as well, you know. But anyway, that being said, not joking about the miles though. You've been at Gartner Summit, and I'd like to use what you've gathered as information, what you gathered as information for the past year, and what you think, in order to give us some kind of a indication of where do you think we're going in 2026. So, what can you summarize to me? You've been at the Gartner IAM Summit in Texas in December 25. What are the major highlights from this show?
Yeah, sorry, I'm still stuck on Brent telling me about going to Australia, and I'm just dreaming about Australia. So, yes,
come on.
yeah.
Actually, go for it.
Yeah, so I guess a couple things. I mean, I've been going to Gartner for a number of years, and full disclosure, I really enjoy the conference. I think it's all about, you know, meeting the people and having those kind of hallway conversations and the dinner conversations. Presentations are great, but I love the after events. And I think the thing that stuck out to me this year was identity really becoming kind of the central system of security, if you will. You know, I've been in the identity space 15 years now, and we've always been I don't want to say we haven't been an equal partner, but we haven't been an equal partner. And I see a change now in how the community and the industry is thinking about identity. So it's just becoming that central kind of focus point. But what's more important, and this was a change I saw this year. Leading up to this year, we spent a lot of time on the tools. We spent a lot of time on the products and features of the products. Now people are really talking about how trust decisions get made everywhere, and less about the tools, because reality is the tech is there and it's been there for a while, right? I think now people are once they've kind of internalized what the tech is and the products, they're really thinking about the trust decisions that are being made by those products and how that works in the ecosystem. So that was a pivot that kind of surprised me. And another one that kind of became apparent to me was the idea of and again, I started out in authentication, right? That was where I began. So the idea that you log in once and you're trusted all day, I think we can call that dead. I think we can call that over. That is an idea that initially was great. I think people are moving on from that, and they're thinking about trust in a continuous fashion. So it's not a one and done anymore. It is now a continuous signal and not that one-time event. And that was, you know, if you think about it and you think about the, kind of those scenarios Brent was talking about, it isn't just that first point of authentication. The risk is there always, right? So we've got to have that trust always to be able to mitigate that risk. And then the other, and I've been waiting for this, and I think, you know, the conference is starting to prove this out, that passwordless finally feels real. You know, full disclosure, I started in a company where it was, you know, a theory, and it was kind of a dream, passwordless, but I think it's no longer hype. It's no longer a pilot program. It's no longer a vision. It's, you know, we're talking about real adoption conversations now. We've got companies that are doing it. We've got companies that have done it. We are hearing real world stories. So I think people have now moved into the pragmatic execution phase of passwordless. So it does feel real. And to Brent's point, you know, about that execution, people are talking now, especially at the show, of instead of, well, can we do passkeys? Because passkeys really changed the game. I think maybe we, you know, it came quick and there was a rush, and it became a reality almost overnight, right? And so people are now talking about, instead of can we do them, to how do we do them? How do we run them? And these are where the real interesting conversations start, because execution is different than, you know, vision. How do we
Yeah.
actually do them at scale? So if I've got 10,000 employees and I want to roll out Passkeys and FIDO to, the population, now I got to think about the realities of that, right? And that's a different conversation. And then finally, I guess I would say, waiting for this for a while, IAM, it isn't a silo. We are starting to think about identity more holistically. We think about identity. IAM is part of IAM is endpoint posture, threat detection, access governance. So it's not just the identities that sits in a database. It's really all of the pieces that roll together on that. So if I had to sum it up, I would just, walking out of Gartner after those 3 days, identity is no longer just a control. People are really internalizing what it means and the risk of it and the security around it. Identity really is an orchestration tool. It's the platform basically that orchestrates security and experience. So it's, I love the conference. I love the conversations, but really what I noticed moving away from this conference or leaving this conference was it's become a reality and people are taking it seriously and there's a lot of exciting things to come.
Okay, so identity at core in everything that you do in order to enable trust. That would be a good way to summarize everything.
Yeah, it really is. And I would say one more thing, just,
Sure.
as you accept that premise, right? And as you understand and realize that, then the execution and the thinking pragmatically across your different kind of systems and how you think about identity starts to change and evolve. That's what I'm seeing is the change and evolution in people's thinking, which is exciting.
Yes, definitely. And so you spent some time talking about passkeys, Brent as well, and leveraging just what you said on the execution aspect of things.
Yeah.
Is there one thing that must happen in 2026 we already mainstream with passkeys, but is there something that must happen in 2026 for passkeys to really hit the mainstream enterprise adoption? Or is there still a big barrier that nobody wants to really admit, or we have a highway in front of us and then we just have to execute?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a couple things. I think we've all agreed, I think across the board, that the tech isn't the problem, right? We've agreed passkeys work, FIDO works, we have data points, right? That's kind of a given. I think what's missing, and I think what people are grappling with now, and these are the conversations that I had and Brent probably has had as well, is operational confidence. Okay, I've got this not necessarily new, but I've got this trusted tech. How can I implement, run it confidently? That's what's missing. This is what they're grappling with now. Security teams and people I talk to it's interesting because as soon as we kind of have the initial conversation, the very next question is, what happens if? What happens if a device is lost at 2 a.m? What happens if, I get a new employee? What happens? So they go right to those operational questions, which sit at the heart of confidence. So if I don't have the operational confidence in the solution that I'm deploying, it doesn't matter how good it is. It's just not going to work for me because I don't, have confidence I can do it. I can run it. So I think that's what's been missing. And if you talk about if we think about the uncomfortable conversations we're going to have, and no one wants to start out with that, it's always around recovery, credential recovery, and lifecycle management. So those are the pieces, those are the long tail in this deployment. Those are the pieces that have endless edge cases, those are the ones that have to be mapped out and understood before you have operational confidence. If you can't recover cleanly, you don't trust it, even if it's more secure. That's key. So we can talk about the trust, we can point to data, but if we can't get to that recovery in a very clean manner, because it happens, let's face it, people lose things, people, do things. So I think that was the nexus of what is going to be required to go mainstream. But there is a mindset shift here. And this is something that I had a very interesting conversation with CISO. He was telling me he struggles with, and they did an initial passwordless pilot. And this was something that was very interesting. He struggled with the ability for people to understand that without a password, it's actually as secure or more secure, actually more secure. There is a muscle memory that we've got to overcome of password equals security. And especially in the reset, so people trust when they can manually reset, even if it's weaker. So if I can do a reset of a password, they trust that almost from a memory perspective more than they would a passkey, reissuance. That's something we're going to have to overcome as an industry, and we're going to have to retrain people to think about. And then I would add that I think passkeys will end up in the mainstream when they stop feeling like a science project, when they stop feeling like an edge case. So we've agreed the tech works, we agree, there, but we've got to get out of the science project notion of that, and that's kind of something that will help it go mainstream. So I think, for this year and beyond, who's going to win are the teams that treat passkeys like infrastructure, not like an experiment. So it's here. How can you get operational confidence? You've got to be able to treat it like infrastructure, like everything else, not an experiment.
So I love your how you put that together. Operational confidence, reset preconceived thoughts around password, and from project to infrastructure, and that tells a lot. So as we continuing to look into the future, 2026, 27, and beyond, there is something that Gartner is pushing, a topic that Gartner is pushing very much, and this is tied to everything you just said, which is preemptive cybersecurity technologies. It can be a big word. It sounds very, very important. So could you give us your thoughts about preemptive cybersecurity technologies, and how do you think IAM vendors are approaching it, and what's cool, what's interesting to look at, why a CISO or an enterprise should really look into this?
I'm always struck by how much of the problem set and how much of the kind of area that we play in is there's such a psychological element to this, and there's such I don't want to say emotional, but there's a mental element to this. So I talked about the mind shift in passkeys, right? Moving from a science project into a kind of infrastructure. There's another mindset, I think, shift that's coming here. Time is our enemy in a incident, right? I think everybody can agree on that. And I think what preemptive security tries to get at is, you're trying to act before something goes wrong, not cleaning up after. So historically, we've always been behind the 8 ball on being able to react. And I think what Gartner's talking about and what the industry is starting to come to is, how do we get more proactive? Because the damage, let's face it, in a reactive mode, the damage is already done. We're just trying to clean it up. And what we're trying to do now, or what we're trying to think about now, I think, is how do we get to that bad actor or that incident before something goes wrong, and not playing cleanup. So I think that's the mind shift. And I think, in my view, IAM really plays a bigger role here than people realize. And Brent mentioned it early, I think, around the signal. So identity, if you think about I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. If you think about identity as a live risk signal, not just a gate you pass through. So in a proactive and preemptive world, identity is going to be that live risk signal. And it's going to be something that you're going to be monitoring in that continuous fashion. And it won't be just that one moment in time when you check it. It's actually going to be signaling back so that we can get into that preemptive stance versus proactive. And I think if in that scenario, if behavior changes, as Brent mentioned about logging in at odd times or in a different location, or if a device looks wrong. So remember, identity is bigger than just that individual person. It's telemetry from the endpoints, it's the ecosystem. You can then adjust access in real time. So rather than kind of reading latent signals and trying to figure out where and how, the bad guy got in, you can make that adjustment in real time. We're starting to see that identity drive prevention and not just the response. So getting out of that latency and moving into a more proactive or preemptive stance, I think is what's happening. But here's the key, and this is very important, and I heard it over and over again, and talking to other vendors as well, no single vendor is going to be able to solve this on their own. We all have to work together. You're seeing that idea of ecosystem fabric. You're seeing the identity fabric. You're seeing the idea of sharing signals, receiving signals. We all have to work together because that whole fabric relies on everybody sharing signals together. IAM, I think, gives us that trust context to let those other systems act earlier and smarter. So if that's a live signal, we can all work together earlier and very smart. It's not the whole answer yet, but I think it's becoming one of the most important control points that we've got. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that definitely what you know this expression, it takes a village to raise a child, and it's really that it would take a village of IAM vendors and solutions to get trust and security for enterprises. So it's just a small feedback on that. But thank you very much, Rich. This was super insightful. We're coming towards the end of our podcast, and thank you, Rich and Brent, for your answers. Brent, we have before we wrap things up, there is something that Rich and we always do with our guests, which is a quick but it's a quick lightning round. It's a very, very fun way to kind of and light way to end this conversation. This is New Year, a new start, fresh start mindset. So we decided that this lightning round is going to have a theme, which is a New Year twist. So are you ready? Are you ready to have to fire up?
Ready? I don't know, but we're good to go.
Okay, let's try. Okay, so I'd like you to finish the sentence. In 2025, I am finally
saw Passkeys taking off in the enterprise.
Nice. Okay. One IAM prediction for 2025 that was dead wrong.
I'm sure going to get people upset with me, but adoptions of passkeys would instantly replace passwords. It's not a flip switch and cover challenges, but company or groups like Fido Alliance are addressing it with some of the top companies. So
I'd like you to take your consulting shoes and I'd like you to give CISOs only one piece of advice heading into 2026. What is it?
Jump in. Don't wait until you have a perfect plan around passkeys or authentication. Just start with something. Something is better than nothing at this point.
That's good. And so we started with asking you your bold prediction for 2026. I'd like you to tell me what's going to break in IAM in 2026.
Good one. I don't know. I'd kind of leaning towards AI, I think. Maybe I'm dead wrong, but I don't think it's going to take a 180 turn, but I think it's got to hit the Y in the road and go off a little bit.
Okay, that's cool. So we are definitely going to close 2026 with you, Brent, and take you on your prediction to see whether or not you're right.
Yeah.
We have money in the game here. Rich, anything that you wanted to add before that?
No, but Brent, I just would mention I've written everything down. And so as Arielle mentioned, I'm hoping I win these bets. So good luck.
Yeah. It's what trip to Australia? Is that what we're?
That's what I'm hoping. Hoping.
Okay, so you have to travel a lot, Rich, so you have enough miles, and then you can get your trip to Australia, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. I think this is coming. We're coming towards the end now. This was a fantastic conversation, and thank you very much for both of you on your honest look back at 2025. What do you see for 2026? What it might bring? This is our second episode, right, Rich? So do you know what comes next? We're going to be back in February, right?
We are, and it's going to be a surprise. So you want to join us. First of all, thanks, Brent, for joining us. Great episode. Everybody subscribe on your favorite platform. You don't want to miss February's episode. And we have got the links in the show notes. Encourage you to join there. And we look forward to a great 2026.
Yes. Have fun in 2026, and we meet in February. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Authentic Talks. Ready to rethink what you know? Follow us on LinkedIn and join the conversation. Until next time, stay ahead, stay authentic.